Short story An Independent Organ by Haruki Murakami. Today we embark on a journey through this profound tale of unexpected love and devastating self-discovery, following the life of a man whose carefully constructed existence crumbles when he experiences true love for the first time. This narrative explores the fragile nature of identity and the transformative power of passion that can both elevate and destroy. This video was powered by the AI Pandora.io. Meet Dr. Tokai, a 52-year-old cosmetic surgeon running a successful clinic in Tokyo. The narrator describes him as someone living a surprisingly artificial life without realizing it. Dr. Tokai is meticulous, cultured, and seemingly content with his carefully arranged existence. Dr. Tokai has never married or lived with a woman. He maintains a beautiful apartment in the upscale Azabu district of Tokyo. A natural homemaker, he handles most household chores himself, from cooking delicious meals to keeping his space tidy. Professional cleaners visit twice monthly to handle deeper cleaning. As a successful plastic surgeon, Tokai inherited his clinic from his father. Though not conventionally handsome, he possesses decent features, good manners, and cultural knowledge that makes him appealing to women. He maintains his appearance through regular exercise, still has a full head of hair despite some gray, and dresses well. Interestingly, Tokai has deliberately avoided marriage throughout his life. He prefers relationships with women who are already married or have primary boyfriends. This arrangement suits him perfectly. He becomes what the narrator calls a casual number two lover or a convenient rainy day boyfriend. For Tokai, these relationships focus more on intellectual connection than physical intimacy. He values dinner conversations, shared wine, and meaningful talks. Physical relations are simply an added pleasure rather than his ultimate goal. This approach actually attracts women to him, as they enjoy his company without feeling pressured. Over nearly 30 years, Tokai has maintained this lifestyle, cycling through relationships with numerous women. When these women eventually marry, he congratulates them sincerely, buys them expensive gifts, and wishes them happiness. About 1/3 later return to him, transitioning their relationship to one between a single man and a married woman. Tokai never envies his married friends. When visiting their homes, he observes the challenges of raising children and maintaining family harmony, the friction between parents and teenagers, the stress of academic performance. All these confirm his belief that marriage is not for him. The narrator describes Tokai as an affable person, not a poor loser, without jealousy or obsessions, lacking political views or excessive pride. His straightforward personality, polished manners, and positive attitude make him popular, especially with women. These qualities help his clinic thrive without advertising. Unlike many pleasant people, Tokai is not shallow or boring. The narrator enjoys spending time with him, appreciating his conversational skills and sense of humor. Tokai shares interesting stories about plastic surgery and insights about women, always respectfully and without vulgarity. Tokai's complex dating life requires careful management. His talented male secretary coordinates both his professional and personal schedules with remarkable efficiency. This secretary even tracks the menstrual cycles of Tokai's girlfriends and handles travel arrangements when needed. Tokai rewards this loyalty with thoughtful gifts. Despite his careful arrangements, Tokai has faced occasional complications. Once, a suspicious boyfriend called the clinic demanding information. Another time, he narrowly avoided trouble with a famous wrestler whose wife became too attached to him. Tokai attributes his escape from these situations to a combination of luck and quick thinking. Everything changes when Tokai unexpectedly falls deeply in love. The woman is 16 years his junior, married with a 5-year-old daughter. They've been seeing each other for a year and a half, meeting when her husband travels for business. This relationship begins as her response to discovering her husband's affair. Initially seeking emotional balance, she finds in Tokai a companion for sparkling conversation, intimate secrets, and leisurely, sensitive moments together. But as time passes, Tokai finds himself falling deeper in love than ever before. This unexpected love prompts an existential crisis. Tokai tells the narrator, "I've often started to wonder, who in the world am I?" After reading about a Jewish doctor sent to Auschwitz, Tokai realizes that without his profession, status, and comfortable life, his identity might collapse. Beyond his surgical skills, what value does he have? Tokai shares his fears with the narrator during their regular meetings after playing squash. He's terrified of losing this woman, saying, "If that happened, I'd lose myself." Yet he knows she has no intention of divorcing her husband because of their child. We see Tokai struggling with contradictory desires, trying not to love her too much while desperately hoping not to lose her. This man, who has maintained emotional distance his entire life, now finds himself completely vulnerable, questioning everything he thought he knew about himself. Tokai caught in a desperate emotional spiral. The successful cosmetic surgeon has fallen so deeply in love with a married woman that it's causing him profound existential distress. We see Dr. Tokai confiding in the narrator about his overwhelming feelings, explaining how reading about Nazi concentration camps has triggered deep questions about his own humanity. "The life I've lived till now seems pointless," he confesses, his usually confident demeanor now replaced with uncertainty. Tokai describes his romantic situation with unusual vulnerability. Though he typically maintains multiple relationships simultaneously, this particular woman has captured his heart completely. He can only see her when her husband is away on business trips, making their time together precious but inconsistent. "When I think I might never see her again, I feel like I'm being torn in two," he tells the narrator, his choice of words revealing the depth of his emotional attachment. He explains that for the first time in his life, he can't maintain interest in other women. They simply don't affect him anymore. The doctor shares a particularly troubling development: the rage he feels building inside when he can't see his beloved, though he can control it for now. He fears what might happen if that control slips away. This marks the last time the narrator sees Dr. Tokai. 2 months later, the narrator receives a shocking phone call from Goto, Dr. Tokai's secretary. The doctor has passed away. When they meet in person, Goto reveals the tragic sequence of events leading to Dr. Tokai's death. Goto describes noticing subtle changes first. Dr. Tokai stopped eating lunch, neglected his appearance, and withdrew from his usual activities. He became increasingly distant and gaunt, eventually stopping work at his clinic entirely. When Goto eventually entered Dr. Tokai's apartment, he found a shocking scene. The once immaculate home was in disarray, and the doctor was lying in bed, severely emaciated. Though alive, he was barely responsive, his eyes vacant and following movement without recognition. We learned that Dr. Tokai was suffering from what resembled anorexia. He had essentially stopped eating altogether. Despite medical intervention, he continued to decline, his weight eventually dropping below 80 pounds. The devastating truth emerges. The married woman Dr. Tokai loved so deeply had not only left her husband and child, but had done so for another man entirely. Dr. Tokai had been merely a stepping stone, possibly exploited financially as well. If that woman had told him, "I decided I can't leave my husband and child, so I have to break up with you," then I think he could have stood it, Goto explains. But the appearance of a third man and the realization that had been used was a shock he couldn't recover from. Before his death, Dr. Tokai regained consciousness briefly to give final instructions, including gifting the narrator a new squash racket head ordered but never used. The story concludes with the narrator reflecting on Dr. Tokai's earlier theory about women possessing an independent organ that allows them to lie without consequence. While the narrator finds some truth in this cynical view, he also expresses a kind of admiration for how deeply Dr. Tokai could love. Despite the tragedy, there's something profound about Dr. Tokai's capacity to feel so intensely that he essentially erased himself. The narrator wonders if, in his final moments, Dr. Tokai found some answer to the question that had been haunting him. Who am I? In the end, Murakami's tale leaves us contemplating the profound paradox of human connection. Dr. Tokai's carefully managed existence, designed to protect him from emotional vulnerability, ultimately could not withstand the transformative power of genuine love. His journey from emotional detachment to complete surrender reveals that sometimes our greatest strength lies in our capacity to be utterly defenseless before our deepest feelings. Perhaps in his final moments of complete self-erasure, Dr. Tokai discovered that authentic identity exists not in professional accomplishments or social status, but in the courage to love without reservation, even when that love leads to destruction. His tragic end reminds us that while we may construct elaborate systems to protect ourselves from life's uncertainties, it is often in our most vulnerable moments that we touch something true about our essential nature. The independent organ of the title may refer not only to the capacity for deception, but also to the heart itself, operating according to its own mysterious logic beyond rational control. In Dr. Tokai's final transformation from calculated lover to consumed beloved, we witness both the terrible price and profound value of emotional authenticity in a world that often rewards artifice. This video was powered by the AI Pandora.io.